welcome to another episode of 50 Shades of Over 50. And we have a special guest. Her name is Dr. Shawnee Tucker, and I can't wait for you to hear her story. Welcome. Yay.
Hi, how's everyone? How are you? Hi, Kwavi.
Hello. So before we get to, really talking the nitty gritty, I would love for you to just give the viewers a little bit of your background before we begin.
Well, I am a grandmother. I have, between my husband and I, we've been married over 17 years. And so between the two of us, we have 15 grandchildren. And and so I'm also a mother of three. And then my husband's children, he has three, so that's six. I also am an educator. I've been an educator over 30 years. I say I'm an educator because once one, always one, but
Yes.
That's what I did as a profession. So over 30 years, I did that. And so I retired out. And in retiring out, I was going to be a caregiver for my mom. And I wind up, my mom passed away in the process of me being the caregiver. I thought I was going to retire and just take care of my mom and enjoy her and all of the above. But she wind up passing away. And then after she passed away, the pandemic came in. And so after the pandemic came in, I was kind of like trying to figure out this thing called life. What am I going to do? I didn't have my mom there to say, Mom, what do you do at this age of life? So that's kind of like what I do now. I have other adventures that I do, but I'll wait and we'll get into that later.
Yeah. So how old were you when you retired?
I was 62 years old. I am currently now 65. And so I was at a point where I felt like that, which way do I go? I no longer identified myself as an educator. At first, it was great. When I first 3 months or 6 months, I was enjoying it. Oh, great! I have my life back.
Yeah.
But as the time started going on, I realized, wait a minute, especially once my mom left, I started hearing echoes and crickets and things of that nature, and I was like, what's going on? Who am I? Who is this person standing here now?
Oh, goodness. Wow.
Yeah. So I was in search of who I was at that point. I fell into like a depression, and a lot of it was not just the pandemic happening. It was more or less trying to find my identity. And what do I do at this point of life? Because life tends to make you feel like, well, society does, that at a certain age of life, you're no longer relevant. When you can't identify who you are, now you're looking at, wow, I'm really a senior citizen. The reality, the reality hit it. I'm really a senior citizen. I couldn't say, oh, at 50 or 55, you're like, oh, I'm getting there, but when you start hitting 62, you are a senior citizen.
Oh, wow.
So I was, starting to look at all of that. And then I watched my mom, she stayed sick a lot in her life in her later years. So I really didn't get to see anyone that really enjoyed themselves, at that age of life. And a lot of my elders, my mom's family, my dad's family, they had passed away. They were passing away at very early ages because of health purposes. And so I know I didn't want that for my life. But I was gaining this weight and I was just feeling like I was not myself. It was just like, who is this person? And sometimes as you go through life, I had, before meeting my husband, there were things of life that I had been through, and it leaves your life kind of fragmented. You don't really, and then you bury yourself in your profession.
Yes.
Or in your, the things that you do. So you really don't focus on yourself. And there I was, all of a sudden, I didn't have the escape of my job.
Yes.
Or my career. I didn't have the escape of taking care of my mom.
Yes.
I didn't.
And your kids were older at that point
too. Were older, gone. I couldn't bury myself in my grandkids because I had to remember they were their kids, so when they
Yes.
wanted to
Yeah.
do something or you can't do this or that, they were their kids. And
Yes.
so um, I I had to find out, and I know I didn't want to be a stay-at-home grandmother.
Mm-hmm.
There was something more inside of me that I was always
Yeah.
this very busy person. And so I knew that there was much more to me. And she was
Mm.
screaming to get out, but she needed me to find her. And I didn't know
Yeah.
how. I was just like standing there, didn't know how.
And it's interesting you talk about society, and I've heard that from a number of women, because I did a series of interviews a few years ago where I was interviewing women who are already in their 50s and beyond. And I
Mhm,
would and for me, I was just asking them questions because I was about to turn 50 and I was like all excited. I was like, okay,
mhm,
tell me about, what are some of the things I need to know and I can learn and the tips. And I was disappointed because I would say 80% of the women I interviewed described themselves as invisible. They
yep.
felt they were invisible. They felt that society just looks down
Mhm,
on women in their 50s and over
mhm,
and made them feel insignificant. And these were women who had had amazing careers, have done amazing things.
mhm,
And now they just felt invisible. And so, you know, that's one of the reasons why I'm doing this work that I'm doing. And so it's interesting to hear that from you. Something else that you mentioned too is you kind of used your work. You kind of, you were in
mhm.
your work, you did all these different things. And so when those were no longer there, you were like, okay, so who am I now? And
Exactly.
I think for a lot of women, that's what happens. But I
Mhm,
want to share with all the women listening, and I want all of you to listen to this. Your worthiness is not tied to your job or your roles, none of that. You
mhm.
are worthy regardless. You are no more worthy than the richest person or the poorest person on this planet. We're all worthy. And I think sometimes society has a way of trying to measure who you are or your value based on what you are or not doing.
Yes.
Not true. Do not believe that. That is just hype. Not true. Do not believe
Mhm,
that.
mhm.
And you get to decide. You have the opportunity to decide that that is not true for you. That story doesn't have to be your story. And so I'm glad you brought that up because I think it's important for women to really think about this. Like
Mhm.
your worthiness, think about when you were a baby. You did nothing,
That's right.
nothing, right? But you were worthy. You were a
Mhm,
baby. You didn't do anything. Everyone did everything for you. And so
mhm,
do not for a second think that you are no longer worthy because you no longer have kids to take care of, or you're now single, or you no longer have a job that you go to regularly. No, none of that. Your socioeconomic status,
mhm,
none of that has any bearing on your worthiness. And
mhm.
so tell us more. So tell me what you decided to do. Like you were trying to decide, okay, what am I going to do? What's next? What did you end up doing?
I was falling into, like I said, a depression, and of course, I had gone to counseling before, prior,
Mhm.
just to kind of keep your sanity sometimes.
Correct.
But I knew that I needed something more than just that. You know, I
Mm,
needed somebody to tell me or to guide me into life, to
yeah.
guide me into this stage of life.
Hmm.
And so what I did was I was gaining this weight. And I went to my doctor and I was worried because I know the health problems that run in my family,
Hmm.
especially my mom's side, and I have a
Yeah.
lot of her genetic makeup. So I knew that that was prone to
Yeah.
happen, but it wasn't my destiny. I kept feeling like I didn't want it to be my destiny. And even though I didn't know it for sure, something inside me kept saying, it doesn't have to be. You're not your mom, you're
Yes.
you. But I didn't understand how to find me. And
Mm.
so what I started doing was I started going on Instagram and YouTube, and I was looking for women that had lost weight, and
Hmm.
I was looking for women, different programs. And I was like, okay, you've seen one, you've seen them all. Okay, okay. So I was just like, I started thinking, should I try this one? Should I try? I was like, no, because it's not going to work. You're not going to do this or that. So I said, I need somebody that's going to help me to be accountable. And so, because at this stage of life, this face it, everybody can't make you accountable, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
You're like, oh, I'm
Oh.
not listening. So
Oh.
at that point, I was scrolling through, And I ran across a young lady, and she talked about being fabulous at 40.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, you could be fabulous at 40 because believe it or not, I enjoyed my 40s. I was
Uh-huh.
like, I was like, oh, I could be, yes, I do know that you're fabulous at 40, but I
You're like,
can't
I
go
know
back
that.
to
I know that.
40.
I know
Yes,
that's possible. That's fine.
I know that,
We know that.
Yes, but I couldn't go back to 40. So I
Right.
was like, what am I going to do now? So I listened to her for a while, and I, kept, she kept me going because just listening to her and
Yes.
looking at her and how fabulous she looked, I was like, yeah, yeah, okay,
Okay.
that's great. So it kept me going just somewhat, but I was still saying, Shawnee, you got to find someone that can tap into where you are.
My goodness.
So lo and behold, one day Kwavi came on to her show. And when she came on to her show, I was sitting there and Kwavi was saying, talking about women over 50. And I was like, that's close to me.
Getting closer, right?
Than 40. So, and that's when my breakdown started happening. When I got in my 50s, this weight started coming. And, like I was fabulous in 40s, but my 50s,
Yes.
they started coming. And I was like, oh my God, the weight started coming. And no matter what I did, no matter
Mm,
what I ate, no matter what I tried to do, it was still coming on. So I was
mm.
talking to my husband, and of course, men, they try to tell you, you look fine, but
You look
you're
good
looking at that
anyway.
person.
And I'm sure the listeners can relate to this. Most of us, our spouses are always like, "Oh, you're good," but
Yes,
we don't feel good. That's the thing.
we
We
don't.
don't feel good.
We don't feel good. And I'm sitting there looking at him like, you're just saying that because you love me. Thank you. But no, it's not working. It's not getting this weight off. It's not making me feel better. It's not working.
That's right. I listen. I get it, and I'm sure the viewers can relate to this completely.
Yes. And so a lot of times people feel because you do have a spouse, and I was single, I was a divorced mother at one time, and things of that nature. And so I get the single life. And a lot of times you think that when people think, oh, you have a husband or you're married or you're this, but no, sometimes you can have that person and still lonely because they don't understand what you're
Yes.
going through.
Yes. Yeah.
And you tend not to want to be a burden to them, like be this needy person. So you don't want to be like, I just need your attention. I need you to tell me I look good. You don't know. They'll go out the door. So you have to find it from within.
Yes, you have to. Yeah, I mean and that is for anyone. Because sometimes we
Yes,
look to our children. Sometimes we look
we
to other.
do.
Listen, it's all about you have to find it from within you. It's not
You
out there.
do.
It really isn't. You can search high and low. It's in you.
And Kwavi, when you said your children, also another thing I was at when came in and met Flourish and Kwavi was because my children, like she said, you try to find in your kids, and then when they want to push you away, or they don't want to be bothered, or you're not going to babysit the day because you're feeling something inside of you. You don't have it in you to be this
Mm,
great, wonderful, happy, running around grandmother, you know. And then they get upset because they're like, well, why can't you watch them? You're staying at home.
exactly. Like seriously, your grandma. What are you
What
doing?
are
You don't
you
have
gonna
anything to
do?
do. Like, yes, we do.
Exactly. They want you to feel like your life is over too. Just sit here and be there when I call you on the phone.
And that's the truth, really. It's like,
Hmm.
but we have to dictate what our
Yes,
life is going to look like. We have to
yes,
do that. We have to set the rules. But tell me, so you were listening to Melissa. I
yes,
think it was Melissa you were
yes.
listening to. Yes. Mhm.
And so Kwavi was on there and she was talking about women over 50. And as I said, she's close to me there. I need that. So she was, then I think she, told her age. I think it was at the time she was
I was
50,
53.
53. Yeah. So
Oh,
yeah,
no, 52 because it was last
52.
year.
Uh-huh.
Or was it
Uh-huh.
this year? I can't remember. 50. I'm 53 now. So probably
Yeah.
52 or 53.
Yeah, yeah. And so I was like, okay, that's even closer. She got past the 50 bucks. She got a little bit extra money. She's there. So I said, well, at least she understands the menopause stuff or
Oh,
premenopause or going
yes.
through
Whew.
it or whatever, get ready to get there or
Yes.
whatever. So I was sitting there listening, and all of a sudden, and this never ever happens. I never really comment. I never really have much to say on things. I just watch on the lives. I watch people just kind of comment and read their comments. And this one particular day, I was feeling so despaired. I was just like feeling so, oh my God, I was at wit's end. And I just
Mm,
typed in and said, I can't remember what it was, Kwavi, I said, but Melissa popped it up on this. I said, I think I said I'm 62 or 63,
yes.
something like that. And I said, and I can't remember. I'm trying to find myself. I don't remember what it was I
Yes.
said, but she popped my statement up on the screen and she said, I want you to answer this question, Kwavi. And when Kwavi answered it, and she started talking about the hormones. I think I told you I was gaining weight
Yes.
and I,
Yes.
right. And so Kwavi's, and I was like, oh my God, my question's up there on the screen. Oh my God, I wanted to shrink, like, oh my God. But I was like, oh, it's the screen here. They don't know who I am. So I was like, I was ready to just shrink. And then all of a sudden, Kwavi said, when you get to a certain point in life, your hormones. And when
Yes.
she said that, I said, she gets me. Oh my God. And she began to speak on it and touch on it. And all of a sudden, I said, wow. So it's not me. There
Nope.
is hope. I
Yes.
can do something about this.
Mm-hmm.
I said,
Yes.
I need her in my life. And mind you, I had been praying. I had been talking to God. I
You
had been
talked
saying,
about that too
I
in our
did.
call.
I did. I was praying. I was talking to God and I said, God, please, what is going on with me? I
Mm,
want to lose this weight. I don't want to be unhealthy. I don't want to live like this. I feel like there's something else more in me, but I don't know what
right.
to do.
And
So
I'm
when,
and thank you for saying that. Sorry to interrupt,
mhm,
but thank you for saying
no,
that
you're
because I
fine.
think sometimes people are like, "Oh, you're older, it's okay." It's not okay.
It's
That's not
not
what you
okay.
want. It's
Mm-mm,
not. And if
mm-mm.
that's what you want, that's okay. But you can decide that, being over 50 and over 60, you can lose weight at that point if that's what you want. And because sometimes people are like, well, but you'll be okay. I'm like, no, but that's not what you wanted more for yourself.
I did. I did. And I wanted not only to feel like myself in my clothing, but I also wanted to, um, it was for health purposes.
Yes, because you knew it ran in your family. You're like, you
It
wanted
runs
to
in my family.
change. You want to
Mm-hmm.
change this whole legacy of this. Like, no, we're changing everything.
Yes.
You're going to, you wanted the path from you below to be
Yes.
different.
Yes. Yes. I didn't want my children's children or my
Mm-hmm.
nieces, my nephews, or
Exactly.
anybody to do like I had to do. I had looked up to my elders, but all of them
Mm,
were overweight. All of their health was not
yeah.
right good. And
Yeah.
so I want them to be able to look and say,
Oh, look
Auntie
at
did
Grandma
it,
Shawnee. Look at
grandma
her.
did it. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Or yeah, exactly. She did it. She's still keeping it together.
Yeah.
So why can't I do it at that age when my hormones and everything else? Because I'm telling you, in your 30s and 40s, yes, you can. That 40 mark is almost like this is your last win. You better enjoy
Thank
it all.
you. Listen, you know what I like to say? I like to say that when you hit 40s, it's almost like they put the sticker on you that says about to expire. And then when you hit
Exactly.
50, it's like bam, expired
It's
sticker. I mean,
over.
seriously, that's how society treats us. We don't
Yep.
have to accept it, but that's really what society does.
It does. It really does. Because even at 40, I felt still relevant. I mean, I could,
Yeah.
get a little eye
Yeah.
text from a
Yeah.
little younger there.
Exactly.
But when I
Yep.
hit that 50 mark, it was like, that's someone's grandmother over there.
Oh yeah.
And I was like, oh, that's someone's baby over there. But I love my husband, but it's someone's
Yeah,
baby over
it'll be
there.
over there. Exactly. Yep.
So at that point of life, right, you just, and I just really, and then on compiled with that, you feel like, you're not as attractive. You
Yeah.
feel
Your
like
body's changing. Oh
it's
my goodness.
changing. Oh my God. And I'm like looking in the mirror saying, who is this person?
Mm-hmm.
So after I found Kwavi and she, said that she wanted us to, get in contact with her and we could, So I said, okay, I said, Melissa, I love you. Oh, you got me here. But Kwavi, I need her. And
Right.
so it was like Melissa was very good at what she does and
Mhm.
everything. And I just know that
She does an
Kwavi,
amazing job too.
she does. And when I just know that Kwavi was an answer to my prayer coming on Melissa's show. And when I found Kwavi and Kwavi began, when she first, the very first call, do you want me to talk about that,
Talk
Kwavi?
about that call. Let's go.
Oh, the very first call that she gave me, she gave a free consultation. And I was like frantically pushing that phone like she was my counselor. You would have thought it was, I'm like, a counselor, I need her. Oh.
Oh my.
And so I called her. When I put in my number and contact information, she got back with me. And I began to sit down. And at the time I was going through, situations with my children,
Mm,
especially. And, I was feeling inadequate as a grandmother because I was being told basically, or being made to feel like if I was
mm,
not at home, a stay-at-home grandmother, I wasn't being a good grandmother. So
mm.
I was made to kind of feel a little guilty for retiring and
And can
enjoying
I
what.
just can I just
Mhm.
say something on that? For the women listening that are grandmothers, you can be out there doing your thing and still be a grandmother,
Yes,
great
you
grandmother.
can.
It's not one or the other. You don't have to be home all the time in order to be a great grandmother.
Yes.
Just in case your brain is telling you otherwise, because
Hmm.
society sometimes makes us feel that way. Like, what? Where are you going? What are you doing? You're a grandma. You should be home. No, no,
Exactly.
no.
Exactly. Thank you, Kwabi. That is so true. That is so true what she's saying, because that's exactly how I felt. That I was, if I wasn't staying at home, waiting for my kids to drop the kids off at
Mm.
my house, and I'm in there baking cookies and entertaining them at my age of life, we're trying to run around and entertain them. If I'm going to run around and entertain, I want to entertain for me now,
That's right.
and maybe a little for my husband, but basically for me,
Yeah,
you know?
that's right.
Yeah. And so I was like, oh my God, I'm at this age of life running in behind little ones or even middle-aged ones or whatever the case,
Yes,
teenagers rather. And so I'm like, I want to enjoy my life.
yes.
And I felt like I put in all these years into life, society, working for other people, working for to sustain life or my
Mm,
livelihood or whatever. But I was not sustaining me. Yes, I
that's
would
it.
go before the pandemic, get a pedicure or whatever.
Yeah.
That was a
You
band-aid.
needed more. You
I
needed
needed
way.
surgery.
Yeah, you needed more. That's it. Exactly.
I
So
needed
tell us.
surgery.
Yeah. Yeah, and I like that analogy because I sometimes use that when I speak with clients. Like
Hmm.
sometimes, like when something is wrong, you have two options. You can decide, okay, now I'm going to give you some like painkillers to kind of
Hmm.
mask the pain, or we can do surgery and fix the broken leg. Like, what are we
Exactly.
doing here? You know?
Hmm.
And so one, you have to keep taking, and the other one, once you get it, it's like you're good.
Hmm.
So tell us about the phone call. Like, what happened?
So when Kwavi had, oh, and mind you, I had went to my doctor because I was telling her I was gaining this
Mm,
weight, and she had gave me some, weight pills to take or
yes.
whatever.
Yeah.
And I took like a couple before Kwavi called me, and I was like, I don't want this. It raced my heart. And I'm like, I'm too old for this. I don't want to be out somewhere trying to lose weight at this age.
Listen, this is what we do. When we're trying to find a solution, we'll try anything. That's what
Yes.
we do. That's what we do.
And so by this time, I was just a mess. I was just a big ball of mess. I found myself crying. I would go away into my room and cry because I didn't want my husband, I didn't want to be a downer for him. And so I was trying to be this upbeat person still for him when he would come in. And but yet I was falling apart inside.
Mm,
I was all
mm.
torn up inside. And so what happened was when Kwavi finally called me and I answered the phone, and I think I got two words out. I think I said, "Hi, Kwavi. My name is Shawnee." And then I just broke down and started crying when I
Yeah,
started
I
telling
remember that.
her
Yeah.
things that were going. And before I knew it, she was a perfect stranger to me, but she felt so welcoming. And before I knew it, I was pouring out all of everything that I was feeling, from being a grandmother, insufficient grandmother, to being a a spouse that I just didn't want to stay home and play the
Yeah.
Ozzie and Harriet days of the 1950s, just cook and be there and wait for you to come through the door.
Right. Yeah.
I didn't
Exactly.
just want that.
She didn't want that. And that's
No.
okay.
Yeah. And I mean, it's okay to do that, but it's not
It
what I
wasn't for
wanted to do.
you. That's
It
not what you
wasn't for
wanted.
me. It wasn't
And
for
that's
me.
important. You have to
Hmm.
be honest. You have to honor your own truth. Be honest with
Yes.
yourself. And that's what you were doing. You're honoring your truth, but you didn't know how to plan it out. You didn't know how to take steps to achieve
I
that.
didn't. I didn't. And I used to hear women say when I'm going to retire. I'm going to be, I said, what are you going to do? I'm going to take care of my grandkids. I was like, oh, that's boring. You know, I used to think that, but I was like, oh, but
But
I was like,
not for
mm-mm.
me,
Yeah,
right?
I didn't want to be that. And so when I got to that point, I knew that wasn't what I wanted to do. So when Kwavi finally taught, and she just listened so patiently, and I think I took the whole 45 minutes that we had a call.
It was fun. I remember
Oh
the
my
conversation.
God, I just
Yeah.
cried and I wept. And so Kwavi was like, well, I'm here if you need full time, you want me to come on and just one-on-one counseling. And she explained the group, and she said that the group, we would be in with other women. And she said, and I said, of 50 and over, she said of all ages, and she said, but basically 50 and up. And so
Yes.
at that point I said, you know what? Okay, I can do that. I need to hear from other women
Yes.
because I've learned a lot enough in this walk of life. Everybody's walk is different,
So
but we can
different.
all come together and their piece of life they might have of your life. And so I knew that.
Yes.
And so I
Yeah.
said, okay, I'm just going to go in there and I'm just going to listen. I'm not going to say anything. I'm not going to talk. I'm not.
Yeah. Famous last words.
I did. I'm just going to listen to everyone else. I'm not going to have anything to say. And
Yeah.
so, and after all, who I want to tell about this mess of a life I got inside of me? I don't want anybody else to run away and
Listen,
hide
we
out
are
there.
all a beautiful mess. That's the thing. We are all a beautiful mess.
And so when I came to Kwavi and I came to the group and the women that was on there, they were so welcoming. At first when I got there, I was like, oh my God, I'm staring through a screen. That was different, and I was like, okay. And now all these women are staring back at me, and I'm like, they're talking, and it seemed like they knew each other. And I'm just
Nope.
kind of like, I felt like I was like, they
And
just
they
know.
didn't know each other.
But I thought they did when I
She
came in
thought
there.
they
It was
did.
so cohesive. And so I was sitting there and I was like, oh my God, I said, I don't know how long I'll be doing this. So I was sitting there. And all of a sudden, the very first time, one woman came on and she was talking about, and we were just talking about where we were as growing older and
Yeah.
who we were and
Yeah.
what we were going through. And I think the very first time, one lady started talking about her children and
Mm.
what she was dealing with and how some of her kids were like, not, they were ostracizing her basically, or
Yeah.
a couple of the women were starting to say things like their children were not there because they
Yeah.
hadn't seen them in so many years, and
Yes.
because of
Yes.
the breakdown of the
Mhm.
relationships that they were
Yeah.
dealing with and
Hmm.
things like that. And some women were like in between jobs and
Yeah.
trying to figure out where they were going at this age
At this
because
age. Yeah.
society felt like at this age of 60 or 50 and plus they
Done.
didn't want them anymore.
Yeah.
The younger people were taking in the jobs and they
Yeah.
felt useless and they found themselves
Yeah.
transitioning between trying to find a job, going back to work. And I was like, wow, these women are where I am, you know.
Yes.
And so when I started to listen to them, and then the following week we came on again, and then I think it was 2 weeks later we came. I couldn't wait to get back to hear some of these stories. And then next thing I know, I'm
You're
sitting
talking.
there sharing. I'm like, wow, it was so much a family. These were
Yep.
women that were different parts of not just the city, but the world. I found
World.
out. They were coming
Yep.
from
The
different
world.
places, but we had so much in common.
That's the thing.
And
We do. We all do.
we did. I mean, it was all creeds coming together. Like she said, different backgrounds. I would even take the doctor off my name. And I would tell people, I was like, don't call me Dr. Kwame would say, well, Shawnee, but you, the other women say, you earned it. I'm just Shawnee, because it was just, to me, it was just
Yes. You wanted
So
to shed all the layers. You wanted
I
to just
did.
be just you. Like,
I
this is
did.
me in
This
the,
is
yeah.
me, Shawnee.
Mhm.
Before the
Yes.
doctor, before everything,
Everything.
Shawnee.
Sean, exact.
Yes.
And I knew, and I kind of understood where you were coming from when you did that. Totally.
Yes, yes. And so what happened was the women began to share, and every week we would come on. I think it was like we started off like every week, and then after
Every
that it
week,
went to two
every two
weeks.
weeks. Yes.
And then we started going into those sessions. Then she started having these different sessions with
Yeah.
coaching and training and
Yeah.
mingling. And oh my God, I couldn't wait to come to all of them. And I was just like, and we would started chatting. The women started chatting through the chat, and we would read each other's chats. And it was just, I mean, even now, it's like, okay, what I thought was only going to be about maybe a month or maybe one or two sessions. I have now went Kwavi, it's like 6, 7 months now. I'm
7 months
still
into it.
doing,
Yeah.
yes. And so I'm like, oh no, I'm not going anywhere. I'm going to be right here.
So I want you to share with them some of the highlights. Now, first of all, tell people how much weight you've lost. And this is not even like, you're just doing life. It's not like you're doing this strict, you're just doing life. Tell
Mhm.
the people how much weight you've lost.
I've lost over 30 pounds now.
Just like that.
Over
Just
30
like that.
pounds in just what is it, from April when I started
Yeah.
with you?
Yeah. No, we'd say May because you joined in April, but we didn't officially start till May. Like
Till
May.
May.
And
So
this was
20,
just
mm-hmm,
not, and this is not intentional. She's just doing
mm-mm,
life and
mm-hmm,
just taking care of herself. But I think one of the things you mentioned in one of the sessions that I think is so true, and I think is probably the foundation for who you are now as a person
mm-hmm.
is the self-love.
Yes. Kwavi taught me how to, I thought through all my counseling that I had been through in life and different things like that, that I thought that I had found who I was, but I did for that time of life.
Mhm.
But when you get to this time of life, it's different, you know, because now you're saying your body doesn't bend and you're not flexible like you used to be. And, and you can't say, oh, I can still make some mistakes because I'm still got some years left. No, at
You want
this
to be
age,
intentional.
yes,
Mm.
yes. Every step you make, literally and figuratively, can cost you. You can wake up and get out of the bed and go crack and, oh, and you're
Oops.
not healing right away. You don't have those genes to heal right away.
Yes. Oh
Or you'll be
goodness.
like, I ate this when I was in my 20s, 30s,
Oh
and
yeah, we
40s.
know about that. Ooh,
Why
changes,
can't I
girl.
just eat this? And
Mm-mm.
why is it, oh, they didn't do this before? Who's this extra person here? Where'd you come from?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So all of that, and so life is different 50 and up, even your
Yeah.
thought process,
Yes.
because now, like she said, the kids are grown, everyone is grown, the grandkids, they're in their homes or whatever, and you're looking at yourself and saying, what is my worth?
Mm-hmm.
So even society now makes you feel like
Mm.
you're not worthy. When I was 20, 30, 40s, society accepted me. But even now, at this age of life, who are you? What do you want? We can't use you. Go away,
Yeah.
go to the
Yeah.
glue factory. You're that horse for the glue factory. So what happened was at that point, um, I when I started talking with Kwavi, and the thing about Kwavi, and I watched Noon. I had even thought about going on Noon, that
Mm-hmm.
program they have.
Yes. Yeah.
And when I looked into it and I started seeing, I was like, no, that's not what I need either. So, but Kwavi, Noon has nothing on Kwavi, because when Kwavi asks you certain questions, she'll ask you a question and she'll make you think. You won't maybe think right then and there. Sometimes you do, but sometimes you'll go away and you'll say, wow, I didn't think about that. And before you know it, the questions that she asks, she gets into you. She makes you, she does surgery on you. She has and then she gives you the tools to sew yourself back up. So when I look inside myself, the things that she does and says, it makes you look into yourself without condemning yourself. When I would go to Kwavi, I would have so much condemnation. And Kwavi would say, well, who said that? Was it you that said that? Or was it actually how you felt? How did you feel? And when she says that, I was like, wow, no, I didn't feel that way. Yeah, it was me that said that. And yeah, it was me that thought that way. Nobody else said it. I thought
Mhm.
that based off of my fragments of life and where I am today because I was so
Yeah.
busy covering up through who I thought I was.
Hmm.
And so when Kwavi began to ask me certain questions, when she began to give you these tools that you need, and she's not pounding you, she's not telling you, you better do this, she's not making you feel bad. You start to feel good about yourself. As I begin to feel good about myself, I wanted to look at that scale and say, like, she had us weighing ourselves every day. And I was like, oh my God, why am I going to weigh myself every day? I don't want to look at that thing. And then before I knew it, I was getting on there and I was saying, oh, wow. Oh, I'm this. Oh, I look like I gained a couple of pounds today, but I really, oh, so what? You know, I
Exactly.
was like, so what?
Because you're
I,
doing the work.
I'm doing the work.
That's it.
I'm doing what I know I need to do
To
for me.
do.
So in fact, I looked to get on that scale and I used to get on the scale and I used to be like, okay, what are you going to say today, scale? You got
Love
to get on
it.
the scale. I don't care what it says. I'm like,
Exactly. What are you going to tell me? You were good.
yeah,
You're like, I don't care what you have to say. I'm
that's
doing the
it.
work inside and it's going to work eventually. So
It's
whatever
going
you're
to
saying right
work.
now is good.
It's
Love
good.
it.
So
Love
I
it.
did not dictate myself to that scale. Just
Uh,
like now, I don't dictate myself to being a grandmother. I don't dictate myself to my work or what I do or any of the above. It is who I am. When
oh,
everybody else is gone, when the symphony has stopped,
mm,
when no one else is around to applaud you or anything,
yes.
those applauds, the music, and everything comes from within me because
Yes.
Kwavi has given me the tools at this age of life to live my life anew.
Oh, love it. All right. So tell them before we go, you need to tell them about what you're doing now. Like you're on this amazing adventure. You have to tell the viewers what you're doing.
I am. I always wanted to be a fashion designer when I was younger. And of course, life happened. And so my path deterred and I went into education. And so what happened was one day I was sitting there and through all the work that Kwavi have done, and the ladies on Flourish, the ladies are amazing. And so I was sitting there one day and I was listening to everyone talk about what they were doing, what they wanted to do. And then finally Kwavi said, well, Shawnee, what is it that you would like to do? And I was like, she said, we had an assignment to do what our when we were what our
But
journey
younger, yes.
was
Were
when we
you
were younger.
younger? Hmm.
And so I said, I'm not bringing that up. I said, I'm not doing it. And so finally, everyone was bringing up what they wanted. And Kwabi said, Shawnee, what do you want to do? What did you want to do? Because I don't even think I did the assignment because I
Yeah.
didn't finish it out. I said, oh, well, I always wanted to be a fashion designer, but that's gone. And Kwabi said, who said it's gone? I said, because Kwabi, I've gotten too old for all of that. I don't want to sew for people. I don't want to. She
Mm-mm.
said, but who said it's gone? So one of the other ladies said, you know, you can go on, you can do this, you can become that, doing this and sewing and this and that. In fact,
Mm-hmm.
I would even like to see some of your sewing because I
Mm.
always wanted to know how to sew. And I was like, really? She said, yeah. So then I said, okay. So they were saying, and Kwavi was like, we want to see some of the things that you make when you start going back to
Mm.
that sewing again. So I was over here and I started doing my little sewing. I said, okay, I'm going to sew this. I'm going to let the ladies see it.
Yes.
And I brought it back and I showed them, and they were so amazed. They were
We
like,
were
oh my
like,
God,
what? We were
yes.
like, listen, you need to open a store. That's what we said, online store.
Yep,
In fact, I remember telling her, I said, you need to open an Etsy store.
she did. She did. She even gave me like, I said, well, Kwabi, I'm not good at advertising. She said, you don't have to. There's influencers out there. And she gave me names like Fiverr
Yeah.
and things like that.
Yeah.
And
Like
she
you
said,
go to different places and you can, I mean, this can be done. You can
yes,
do this.
she did tell me that. She said, there's Etsy. Have you heard of Etsy and things like that? And so I was like, okay. And that was still far from my mind. I didn't even
Yes.
think about that because I was just now starting back my sewing.
Mm-hmm.
And so she was saying, you can sell those bags, you can sell those things on Etsy and things like that. So finally, I to catch up, fast
Yeah.
forward, I finally started just like she said, just doing life. I started finding my worth again in sewing. I started enjoying myself, and I was like, wow, I really, really enjoy doing this. The
Mm-hmm.
little girl in me started coming back, and I thought I
Yes.
had lost my creativity, and it
It was
started
there
coming
all
back.
along. Ooh.
And I started talking to the ladies about it, and they were encouraging, and we all just began to talk about just things we wanted to do. We begin to dream again at this age of life.
That's it. They began to dream again. And some of you listening have
Mhm,
stopped dreaming. But
mhm.
dreaming is not just for the young, it's for
It's not.
anyone. It's for
It's
anyone.
not. So finally, after that, I was by doing Kwavi, this lady came on, and she was a businesswoman. And again, I
Mhm.
had been praying about that part of it.
Yes.
And Kwavi had given us some of the tools and things about, just touched on the business aspect and things of that nature. And by giving me different people that, I could look up, influence, and things of that nature. And so when this lady came on, she popped up like kind of like what Kwavi and Melissa and Kwavi did, just popped up on the screen. Now I'm used to the
Yeah.
screen. This is the way of life now. You better get used to it. And so I'm like, okay, I can do this. And so the lady comes on, and she begins to talk about turn your crafts into a challenge. And
Yeah.
when she did that, I was like, okay. But see, because I was on Flourish, I would have never looked at my sewing as worthy.
Yeah. She didn't.
I didn't. I would have never looked at it as a craft that was worthy enough to be sold or even be viewed as that, because Flourish let me believe in myself.
Mm-hmm.
And so I wind up going on and looking at her. I think she had a week challenge. Then it wind up
Mm-hmm.
going into a week and a half challenge.
Look at
And
that.
then
This is Shawnee. This
mhm,
is Shawnee.
this is the one that was looking at it and saying, this is not going to work when I first came on this, and said, look at this screen. What am I doing
Yeah,
here?
exactly. And
Okay.
what ended up happening, Shawnee? Just tell them what happened.
And I wind up joining her challenge. And in joining the challenge, I said, well, I joined this with Kwavi and it came out good. I can do this here. And so I wind up going on the challenge with the lady. And when I went on there with her, and her name is Rachel. And when I wind up going on there with her, sure enough, I wind up learning the business aspect of what Kwavi had talked about with
Yes.
Etsy. And I said, oh my God, the heavens have opened up and are talking to me,
Yes.
because now here's another answer to my prayer. And now I got the business aspect of it. So now, to make a long story short, I am a proud business owner,
Yes, she is.
okay, in Etsy,
She has an Etsy store.
and I do t-shirts now.
Let me show you
And
guys an example of her t-shirt. Let me show you one of them. Look at it. Look at this. One of her t-shirts. Look at that.
oh,
Look at that. Look at that. She has amazing, and you can
unapologetically
see in
me.
the background of her the video. That's one of her work. That's one of
Yep,
her work.
it's one of
That's
them.
one of them.
Hmm.
One of her t-shirts. I mean, this is someone I remember when she came to me in April. She was in tears
Yes.
because she was trying to figure out who she was as a person. And so all I want to say is, Shawnee, I'm so glad that I get to do this work with you. I'm just glad because I love the work that I do. And so being able to do it with you and so many other women just brings me so much joy, because my passion is to really impact 1 million women. That's my goal, 1 million women in this world, because I really think that women 50 and over, we have so much wisdom,
To give.
so much experience to show in the world. But I think sometimes we get caught up in what society says and we just decide to shrink back and not do anything. And some of us want to do that, but there are so many women that are shrinking back just because society has said that and think that they don't have an option. But you do. You
Mhm.
really do. And so I want to thank you, Shawnee, for sharing your story, because
Yes.
this might be helpful to someone listening there. Someone might be listening and saying, that's me. She's giving me hope. I can do it.
Mhm.
And if that's you, listen, go after your dreams. Do it. Don't let society determine that you can't do it because of your age, because that is not true. And if you want more, I invite you to Flourish. I'm telling you,
Yes.
it's amazing.
Yes.
We have so much fun in there.
We do. We do. We do.
And so if you're interested, I'm gonna put the in the notes, you can join Flourish, or if you want to just set up a consult. I love speaking with women. You want a
Mhm.
free consult? Just click on the link and schedule a consult. Let's chat, because I really want to know more about what women are doing in the world. I really want to empower women so that they can rediscover their purpose and passion. Because I know for some of you, you've had that passion and then you kind of like, oh, I can't do it. And maybe like Shawnee, you felt like something you loved as a child and you're like, oh, I can't do that anymore. I'm too old. Not true. You can still do that.
Yes.
So anyway, thank you, Shawnee, for coming. I
So welcome,
really appreciate it.
Kwavi. You are
And
so welcome.
thank you. And for
And I
those
would just like to,
listening,
I would just
go
like to
ahead.
tell the ladies that flourish is something that is totally different. It's not like going to a counselor. It's not like going to some diet where they're going to, hammer you or tell you to do this or strict. Kwavi's program Flourish changes you in the inside and it demonstrates it on the outside. And so, what you do at that point is you start to change your way of thinking. You start to change how you're processing information about yourself. And when you do that, then you're conscious of the things you eat. Then you're conscious of the things you do. Then you're conscious of the people that you're going to come into your
Surround
life
yourself.
that's going to
Yeah.
bring in good vibes for you or take away. And then you know how to now be assertive, to stand and
Mm,
defend yourself in a way to say, I'm worthy and I love you, but I cannot let you destroy me.
yes.
And
Oh,
that's what Flourish has taught me. And that's what Kwavi has taught me. So people
thank
join it.
you.
I'm telling you, join it. You won't regret it.
Oh, thank you, Shawnee. And you know what? I just want to say, Shawnee, I just love the growth I see in you. Like, it's
Thank
like you're
you.
radiant, you're glowing now. And I just want to say you just look amazing. So,
Thank you,
but
Kwavi.
thank you for being a part of Flourish. I really do enjoy working with you and the other women. It's just I just feel like my heart is so full that I get to do this work. All right. So thank you all for listening. If you would love to join Flourish, the information is down below. If you'd like to set up a free consult, the information is down below. Thank you. And don't forget to subscribe and share. Thank you. Bye.